Okay, kids, it's time for another episode of the Fueled by Weird podcast, the only podcast where these are the droids you're looking for. I'm Chris Daly, and today I'd like to welcome Brenden Peaches to the show, aka Peaches from KBear 101. What's going on, man?
Oh, nothing much. Same old stuff. Been a busy Monday, but just the radio's radio. It's a whole bunch of stuff going all at once.
Yeah, it's I don't know what it is the last couple Mondays, but it's like it 1 minute it's like 8 o'clock, the next minute it's like 2 o'clock. I don't it's wild, man.
For sure, for sure.
Very cool. All right, so usually I like to start these things off with an icebreaker question. So today's icebreaker question is, what song brings back childhood memories for you? Or even, what songs bring back childhood memories for you?
Man, it's funny because like I grew up in a time where, rock wasn't really everyone's choice in
Yeah,
high school, and I didn't really get into rock until I was about 10, 11, because my dad introduced me to AC/DC.
nice.
And that was like, of course, my first ever love towards the genre. And I always try to say that they were my first concert back in 2008 at the Forum, but my actual first concert was when we went to go see Hannah Montana and the Jonas Brothers at the Staples Center. And
Nice.
that was a very crazy time because there was a lot of teenage girls screaming all around us, and that's probably
Wow.
the loudest crowd I've ever heard. And then saw AC/DC a couple months later, and maybe AC/DC Rock and Roll Train takes me back to when I was 12. But when I was like a teenager playing basketball at my high school, all they would listen to is like Soldier Boy or anything hip hop related. So it's kind of I wasn't wanting to listen to that. I was just forced to because of all the
Yeah.
practice time I had with teammates and weightlifting and all that I was forced to listen to that stuff. But I didn't really dive deep into music till I was in my late teens, early 20s.
Right on. And about how old are you?
I'm 28.
Okay, so yeah, you just made me feel super old now, but that's okay. So you're just a kid. That's cool.
Yeah.
So for me, I think I'd have to say, I didn't actually get into heavier music, like you until I was a little bit older. The heaviest I had gotten into was Meatloaf. That's probably the heaviest because my dad was a huge fan of Meatloaf. Listened to Meatloaf, he listened to like Eric Clapton, he listened to the Eagles, Journey, stuff like that. So I didn't get into stuff like Metallica until high school when, I was carpooling with some guys. And I just listened to whatever was on the car. And they had Metallica, they had Blink 182. That's how I got my intro into, some heavier stuff. And then, it's like the punk stuff with Blink 182 and stuff like that. But I'd say going all the way back to um, earliest childhood memories of music, I would say Walk Like an Egyptian and Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel are the two that I remember the fondest just because it's just I have memories of watching it with my mom and dad and doing the walk like the Egyptian dance. That just kind of shows you how old I am.
No, man,
And
I had a Little Tikes cassette player as a kid, and for some reason I was obsessed with Devo's Whip It, and I would
yeah,
fast forward track, and that was the last song on the album. I'd fast forward the whole thing, then press play and listen to that on repeat. For whatever reason, I just liked that song. I like the whole like "Step on a Crack, Break Your Mama's Back" lyric for some reason.
yeah,
And so I avoided
totally.
cracks when I was a kid for sure because I'm like, no, I don't want hurt. I don't want my mom to get hurt, type of thing.
No, I get it. I get it. But yeah, Sledgehammer, I really like that song until I watched the music video for the first time and it scared the shit out of me.
Oh, dude, I could only imagine
It
that.
was it was super creepy.
Yeah, it's a weird claymation type thing. I love Peter Gabriel, though. He's a great
Yeah,
musician. I love his classic stuff, but
absolutely.
like, when it comes to his time in Genesis, I got to say Phil Collins over Peter Gabriel in Genesis for
Oh yeah.
sure.
Phil Collins was someone that my parents used to play quite a bit too. So yeah, I'm super familiar with him.
Right. And I grew up with that when Tarzan first came out, of
Oh
course. And I
yeah.
think, and that would like Strangers Like Me was a fantastic song back then, still is now, but it's
Hmm.
just Phil Collins is fantastic.
Yep. And it's kind of nostalgic because my youngest daughter, she is does dance lessons and just recently did a dance to the song where all the gorillas are in the jungle or in the camp from the Tarzan movie.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that kind of brought things back too.
That's awesome.
All right, man. So, the whole concept of the show Fueled by Weird is, all the things you're into, your hobbies, your interests, and all that kind of stuff. They come together to make you who you are as a person. and essentially what fuel your weird. So when you're not at the radio station, what kind of things you like to do?
Well, I really like to hike. My friend Matt, he's from Naples, Florida. He's the typical Florida man, wants to do anything and everything adventurous, and he's taken me on hikes, willingly or unwillingly. And there's been some trails that have been intense, but to say that I've experienced them, it's pretty crazy. We did the Ho Chi Minh Trail in San Diego,
Oh,
one
nice.
of the craziest things I've ever done, where I'm like basically cliffside, and behind me are four girls crying, and they didn't want to go, so I ended up sliding down, and it was a fun time regardless, because it was still cool to see the beach after that. And then I realized there was stairs the entire time, like 50 feet down to the right. That there was a staircase you could have taken to the beach and back up instead of doing the crazy hike that we did.
Oh man.
But love to hike. I play Xbox quite a lot. I wish I could PC game, but the bank account, it's way too tiny to start building the PC like I want to do, like we
Uh,
have here in the studio here.
I get it.
All of my friends are now on PCs, and I'm just the one guy. I'm like, oh, I can't play with you because there's no cross compatibility, cross platform. I can't do it. But other than that, I do like to still play basketball occasionally. Um, I think I still have it, but then I start running up and down the court, and then I'm like, okay, I need to take a 5 minute break after doing it like once or twice. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I'm a pretty boring person outside of radio. It's like there's sometimes where I just play video games, or if I am so fatigued by the day, I'll lay there in bed and just talk to my friends on Discord, and then it'll be like 9 p.m. Okay, time to go to sleep, wake up the next morning, and do the same workday all over again, type of thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I'm kind of the same way. I mean, outside of work, I, do my, my dad stuff. I do because, I've got two kids. I do the husband thing because I'm married. But other than that, I don't really leave the house that much. Um, I do try to play Xbox more. I've had an Xbox for years, but up until recently, it just kind of just a decoration in my house because I don't give myself enough time to play. Like I won't let myself play because I feel like if I'm playing, then I feel like I'm wasting. I could be doing other things. I'm just like being I'm just being not productive. That's the word I'm looking for. Um, but I just recently, finally, after almost 10 years, upgraded my Xbox One to the Xbox One X. I was a good boy this year, and Santa Claus brought me a new Xbox. So, Santa Claus said that Xbox was expensive, so you better make time to play it. So I've been playing it a little bit more. Recently I've been playing Fortnite for the first time in a long time. Well, I played once like a year ago, and it was a lot of fun. And then I haven't played again, so I'm like, instead of waiting for people to play, I just like, there's no reason I can't go play, and it's a lot of fun. Um, but yeah, Fortnite's fun. I actually would think it'd be fun to squad up with some other people, so maybe you and I can hang out sometime on Xbox. I think that'd be rad.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I used to play Fortnite just a little bit with Josh from Classy 97, and like we would just do a duos match. And I think the last time I played was with him. So it might have been months and months ago. I mean, I've seen the skins get released. It's pretty funny to see like these different celebrities get added to Fortnite. If I make it
Yeah,
big enough in radio, I'd love to be added to to
that'd
that
be cool.
game.
Yeah, I just recently bought a couple skins. I got the Casey Jones from the Ninja Turtle skin that's pretty badass, and they have this new one named Vic Vine, and he's a big, like a tall dude, but he's also like a bigger dude. I'm like, it's cool to see not just all these little skinny avatars. You got some of the bigger dudes represented now too. So I'm like, I got to get that guy because that was awesome. Just like a big, thick, sturdy dude.
Yeah, I got Shaq. I love Shaq. He's one of my all-time favorite celebrities.
Yeah.
Always tell my friends and family, like if I ever meet him, I'll cry for sure because I'm a fangirl so hard.
Oh, for
And then
sure.
I got the entirety of I paid extra for this. I paid for all four members of Metallica,
Oh
and
man, yeah.
yeah, when I saw that get announced, I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm getting all four of them. So I make Lars Ulrich hit the gritty, and I do have James do some dumb dances in the game, and
That's
it's fun.
so great. That's so great. And yeah, I waste a lot of my time on Discord too. I'm in a few different Discords. I'm in Discord for a band called Lords of the Trident, which is a fantastic band. I actually told Victor about them and I kept meaning to send him some music so he could see whether or not you guys played on the radio, but I'm a slacker. Sorry, Victor. But yeah, they're basically, my friend Adam used to say that Lords of the Trident is the perfect band to score your D&D game to, and it's the perfect explanation for it, and they're incredible. So I've got to hook you guys up and let you know because they're an incredible band.
Yeah, I'm always down for new music, and all my friends when it comes to Discord, we're all over the place, unfortunately. Like most of us used to be in Southern California. I moved out
Yeah.
here. A lot of other friends that we've met along the way are all around. So I have like one friend in Terre Haute, Indiana. I have another one in like Cincinnati, Ohio, and we just like somehow, some way, all like are just best friends. It's weird to think that, in 2025, you can do something like that. I'm so happy that like I'm getting to like be away from home in this day and age because I could not imagine moving out here for radio back in like the late 70s, even 80s or 90s,
Yeah.
just because of like the lack of ability to talk with people. Like I feel like I would then be forced out of my way to start, going out all the time, meet new people. It'd be a weird, maybe it'd be a good thing in a way. I don't know, but like the
Yeah.
smartphones being a thing, I'm very happy I can just use technology to make things a whole lot easier rather than just use the Thomas guide and guide my way everywhere. All that.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's what I keep to, I try to preach, how awesome Discord is, because it's so, it's a lot more friendly than something like Facebook Messenger where you could like make a group chat with people, kind of keep your thoughts organized. You don't have to scroll back through a bunch of chat to get to something you talked about before. And people are just like, it's another thing, it's too hard. I'm like, yeah, I mean, first you gotta put a little bit of work to set it up, but after that, it's awesome. Facebook was the same way. That's why people are afraid to switch to other social medias is because you got to put the work in. Well, you put the work in to get Facebook up and going. It was a long time ago. So, but yeah, Discord's super awesome.
it for sure is
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, for sure. All right, man. So I saw recently, speaking of California, you recently made a trip back to California. How did that go?
It was great. I every single time I go back, I miss it, and then I miss it even more every time I come back here, just because I hate to be away from friends and family for that long. And I've reached that point now where like even most of my friends are now leaving Southern California. Like one wants to go to Sacramento, another one wants to move to Arizona, another one has already moved to Nashville with his wife. So it's kind of just like when I do go back eventually, there's just going to be my family there and nobody else to do anything with.
Yeah,
And I always forget that every time I come back, people still have jobs and lives and stuff. So I have to like go back and be like, oh yeah, that's right. My parents are at work from 8 to 5. I won't
yeah,
be able to, if I don't get a rental car, I'll be stuck at my parents' place all day. But it's still a nice getaway from just work and stuff and being overloaded here. And there's, not to bash East Idaho, but there's so much stuff that you can do over there year round that when you come back here, you're like, okay, I can walk the mall for the 500th time or
yeah.
or stay home and play video games.
Which, I agree with you, but it's kind of cool because, it's taken a long time, but we're starting to get a lot more cool things here. Again, it's taken a really long time. I know I've been here since I was a little kid, probably like 3 or 4, I think is when we moved here because I'm originally from Utah. But I moved here when we were super little and right before my sisters were born. But back then there was like nothing here to do. So between then and now, it's grown quite a bit, but there's still, like you said, there's still room for improve or not for improvement. There's still room for growth because there's still a lot more cool things that could come our way that, hopefully will someday.
Yeah, I know we're getting the concerts, and it's funny because I know that was like a huge deal when the Mountain America Center first opened up.
Yeah.
And I remember Victor was freaking out. A lot of people here in the building were freaking out. I'm like, guys, it's just a concert venue. Then I realized like we didn't have one really besides like the Portneuf Health Trust amphitheater that can be used
Yeah.
like only during the summer. But I grew up right by the Staples Center, Honda Center, Forum, all the giant
Yeah.
places. And Los Angeles has those concerts all the time. So it's
Yeah.
just kind of it's great to see that this place is growing in a way, but I also hate it at the same time because traffic's a whole lot worse leaving work and stuff. But then I think
Yeah.
about it and I'm like, a lot of these cars are now, maybe they're new people to the area and maybe they're tuning into KBear for the very first time and they're
Sure.
loving it. We gain new listeners that way.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, it's for someone who, has come from a big city, seeing all that stuff all the time is like second hat. You see all the different sports games and, I'm a big pro wrestling fan, so there's lots of pro wrestling that comes to California and stuff like that. But, up until recently when we had the Mountain America Center, you had to drive 4 hours to go to a big show or possibly more than that. So it's cool that, you can go like 10 minutes now.
Yeah, yeah, I'm glad you said you're a pro wrestling fan because I've been still watching it secretly over all these years after being introduced to it as a kid, and then
Yeah,
keeping up with all that's going on. And it's pretty crazy to see the same wrestlers retiring now, like John Cena, going to be done after
dude.
this year. And I
Yeah,
grew up
if
watching that guy, and he first started wrestling like when he was my age now or something, or I don't know, but he's been wrestling for such a long time that I'm
yeah,
like, I can't
about
imagine.
early 2000s is when he started. So yeah, I've watched through his whole. Yeah, so yeah, don't watch in secret, man. I'm always looking for more pro wrestling fans because most of the people I talk to don't talk to me anymore. So you need someone to talk pro wrestling with, man. Hit me up because I'm up to speed on all that stuff.
Oh heck yeah! Like I get invited now to I don't know if you're familiar with the Pick here, the local radio station, but Shaggy, who is a host over there, I get invited to his house now, and we just watch WrestleMania like every year. It's him and a group of friends, so I'll have to make sure that you can be a part of that if you have even just watching it by yourself. And
Yeah, that'd be cool, man.
yeah, it's always
Yeah,
fun to watch that what goes down. And I was amped up last year when Undertaker made that great return and choke slammed The Rock, and it was cool to
dude.
see those guys, those legends.
It was awesome. Yeah, I don't know Shaggy and the Pig very well, but my daughter introduced him to me kind of because she works at Bricks and Minifigs in Ammon and he was out there this weekend for the Star Wars weekend. So yeah, that's cool. And yeah, I'm actually wearing a pro wrestling shirt almost every day. This one
Nice.
this one is Darby Allin from AEW who just hit the world record for highest kickflip because he's currently working his way up Mount Everest and he's about 20,000 feet up right now. He's got about 9,000 feet left. But yeah, he did a kickflip 20,000 feet up on Mount Everest. So that's an official world record.
That's awesome. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
right? All right. Well, I could nerd out about pro wrestling forever because I've been watching it since like the late 90s. But what I do want to ask is I saw that you hit up a couple concerts or you hit up a concert while you're in LA. How did that go?
Yeah, it was great. It was kind of emotional for me because it's like the last time we'll ever see AC/DC ever. I mean,
Yeah.
Ryan Johnson's 77, Angus is 70, Malcolm passed away, Cliff Williams retired from the band, and I think Phil Rudd is potentially coming back. I did see an article, but I don't know if it was reliable or if it was a credible article or not. But overall, it was still cool to see them play. But at the same time, it was kind of sad because they slowed down Thunderstruck
Oh
and they slowed
man.
down Highway to Hell. They slowed down all like their songs pretty much because they're just older, and I understand it completely.
Sure.
But it is funny to see how people overall at concerts how they just for some reason never can understand where their seats are. Like
Yeah.
me and my dad, my friend Matt, we went there and we knew immediately, okay, this is our section. These are our seats. We're sitting here. And even during the concert, there was people like having their flashlights right in our faces, trying to find where they're seated at. It's just like, come on, guys. It's not that difficult. It's not a puzzle.
Yeah, I've not been to many concerts. I've only been to a small handful. But yeah, it's crazy how hard it is for people to figure that stuff out.
And AC/DC itself, I mean, themselves, it's so funny because it's like literally four old dudes that you're watching on stage, but 90,000 people are there at the Rose Bowl to watch those guys. And every single one of them has been a fan of that band. Maybe for a while, maybe just for a little bit, but they're still like one of the biggest rock bands. And I was just having a debate with my friends about like, will there ever be a band to fill up a major stadium like that ever? Because there's so many ways you can listen to artists now
Yeah.
versus back then. I mean, you only really had the radio as an option, and AC/DC maybe was like shoved down people's throats until they liked it, until they liked them type of thing. But
Yeah.
now you have like, Spotify, Sirius XM, the radio, you got Pandora, you got YouTube, Amazon. There's podcasts available. There's so many different audio things that people can do and listen to that will there ever be a band as big as AC/DC or the bands back in the 80s like Guns N' Roses and Queen, Metallica, of course, and all those ones.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Um, so Pretty Reckless, how were they?
They're fantastic. I
Yeah.
felt bad for them just because um, nobody really pays attention when the opener's on stage, especially at a show for AC/DC. Like everyone's just there for that band, and I always like make it a point to support the openers because you never know they could become your next favorite band. And I know, like in 2022, I think it was 2022, Victor and Jade went to Salt Lake City and saw Bad Omens open up for Under Oath, and then they opened up for Spirit Box. No, that was Bad Omens, Spirit Box, Under Oath. Under Oath was the headliner, and now it'd be reversed. It would be Under Oath opening up first, Spirit Box, and then Bad Omens on top. And
Yeah,
it's funny how just bands can grow like that. But yeah, the Pretty Reckless, very talented, extremely. My dad also, I think my dad became a fan after he saw their performance. But yeah, I feel like they're doing pretty well for themselves if they're opening up for AC/DC overall. So
that's true.
yeah.
Very cool. All right. So speaking of music, what was it that originally got you interested in music in the first place?
Just like the adrenaline, I would say, especially when it came to like rock and metal. Like I remember playing baseball as a kid, and I would like listen to AC/DC quite a lot, and then Metallica became another thing. Like For Whom the Bell Tolls was one of my favorites, and Enter Sandman, of course, that's the one that will always get you no matter what.
For sure.
Um, but yeah, I mean, that's what really got me into music in the first place. And like my dad had a rockin' 80s CD in his car, and he would do like this silly thing where he'd be like making up scenarios as the song went on, and it'd be like me making a grand entrance, and and like that for some reason like stuck with me. And like I don't know, I've always liked that type of thing, and I've always wanted to like listen to good songs. And eventually I had friends in middle school that just showed me other bands, and like they showed me Metallica, and then they showed me Avenged Sevenfold, and I thought the early Avenged Sevenfold stuff was crazy heavy when I first heard it.
Yeah.
And of course, now I'm listening to like, Lorna Shore and Whitechapel, which is it's insane to, or I hear these bands sometimes that we get sent to for our Jinx Show library for here on KBear, and I listen to some of these guys and I'm like, most people probably think I'm just listening to noise, but I'm actually enjoying this heavy stuff now after listening to it, prepping stuff for here. So
Yeah.
it's a long answer to your question there. Sorry.
No, you're good, man. That's perfect. Um, we've kind of touched on it a little bit already, but what are of course, working at the rock station, everyone would think that your favorite genre is rock music, but I don't want to make that assumption. So what kind of music, like what are your favorite genres to listen to?
Definitely just more modern metalcore. I've realized it's just mostly that. Every time I go to Spotify or YouTube or I try to find other bands, I always seek out like something that sounds similar to what I'm listening to. And there's actually a website that I found. I don't know if it's called Chiosic or Chosic or something like that, but you type in the song title and artist, and you can type in as many as you want, and then it'll give you song suggestions based off the same like tempo that the song is, those songs that you gave it are the same key, and overall it's like suggested me songs that I've ended up playing on the air for Peach's pick of the day at 2 p.m. and stuff. So but I'm mostly rock and metal. I'll sometimes dabble in country if I really feel like it, and then I do have this guilties playlist where I have like Dua Lipa and Walk the Moon and The Killers and all those fun top 40 songs that I actually end up liking. But most top 40 songs now, it's like there's some out there that I'm just like, they all sound the same. Or they're like, I don't know what, like Sabrina Carpenter and Billie Eilish, I'm not into them, but like there's some fun ones like Young Gravy sometimes. I'll dig into his catalog. He's a unique guy for sure. But yeah, overall, rock and metal is definitely the main two that I always listen to. I just got very lucky being the guy here on K-Bear for sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't get into anything harder than Metallica until a little bit later in life, where I discovered This Fire Burns by Killswitch Engage. And dude, that cemented my love for Killswitch Engage forever because they're probably my favorite band ever. And bands like them are pretty much going to be a thumbs up for me because Killswitch is huge. And I'm kind of the same with you. I'll go into Spotify, I'll go in there specifically wanting to listen to something hard, and it usually always goes to Killswitch, or maybe it'll go to something like another one of my favorite bands, Unleash the Archers. If you've never heard of them, they're incredible. Actually, looking at your shirt, I've just recently gotten into Architects due to a friend who shared about their new album that just came out, and that new album is incredible.
Oh yeah, no, it's those guys. Victor's the one who'd introduced me to them, and I wasn't really a fan of their older stuff. And we played Animals from Architects so much that I got to the point where I'm just like, okay, if I hear this one more time, I feel like I'm gonna throw up. It wasn't a bad song. I just heard it so much,
Yeah.
and there were listeners that were texting us all the time saying, "Should I just pull the pin?" And it just kept going on and on. And but then I heard like Whiplash. I mean, fast forward to this year or last year, I think, Whiplash, Blackouts, all those songs from the new album. Like, this sounds really good. And then I started listening to the whole. even more so of them, and I've been hooked onto them ever since. And I'm excited that they're coming to Salt Lake City in August. So it'll be fun to try to go to that show.
That's cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, another way that I've found out some new music is TikTok. And that's been a great way to find brand new bands that I've never even heard of, and I don't know if I'd ever would have heard of. One recently, one of my favorite ones, I'm not sure if you know, but it's a band called Keep Close. They're located in Salt Lake City. They've got a couple of songs that have kind of blown up on TikTok recently, but they're incredible. When I found out, oh, you guys are just like 4 hours away, that's rad. But yeah,
Yeah, that's really
it's a cool way to find new music that way.
yeah, yeah. I know Sleep Theory originally blew up on TikTok as well,
Yep. That's
and
how I found
I,
them.
I've also been hooked on them ever since. And yeah, they're coming here in June, so I'm trying to plan out my concerts for the summer and go see a lot of these guys because I feel like I've passed up on a lot last year, and I'm sucks. I missed Spirit Box in Salt Lake City on Saturday. I wanted to go to that show, but sometimes money gets in the way or gas or time and things. And it's like, okay, do I really want to drive 3 hours again to go see a band I want to see? It really tests how much of a fan you really are if you want to go see that, if you want to drive the 3 hours to go see them,
Yeah.
or just want to be like, you know what? I'll wait till they come here or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get in the Wayback Machine and go all the way back. I want to know what it was that made you decide to pursue a career in radio.
So, if funny enough, I played basketball. I'm sure you can't tell I'm 6'9", so I've always been the
Wow.
extremely tall guy. As a freshman in high school, I was 6'6", and that was like that's how I got into basketball. It was because of my height. I wasn't necessarily a fan of it, but I just was kind of told go into basketball and you'll do well with it and somehow you'll make it to the NBA. Like without any skill, without any jumping ability, nothing.
Yeah,
I just thought for some reason
everyone just assumes if you're a big dude, that's your obviously you play basketball because you're a big guy.
right. Yeah. And everyone just assumed, like, I was told basically as a kid, like, just because you're tall, you'll make it to the professional league. And so I, for some reason, had this convoluted thing in my head where I'm like, you know what? I'll stick with basketball in high school, go to college for it, play the 1 year, and then declare myself for the NBA draft. And obviously, I was barely good enough to be on the high school team, let alone jump to college. But fast forward all 4 years of high school. I played basketball for two separate high schools. I transferred halfway through my junior year, played basketball from junior to senior year, graduated high school, and then back then I didn't really know how the college application process really worked. I'm so glad I have the parents that I do because my mom was applying for me on the computer, and she was like, "Okay, we're going to send you to Cal State Long Beach to be a kinesiology major." And then I was like, "Okay, cool." And then I just go, am I playing basketball there? Like for some reason, I just automatically thought I'd be on the team.
Yeah.
She's like, no, you're not good enough. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm not good enough? And then we just had like this whole back and forth. And I was just like, okay, what am I going to do? And I could have gone to a university right away, but somehow I was invited by the coach of Fullerton College, which is a junior college in Fullerton, California. And he was like, dude, we want you to come out and potentially be a person on our team. And I ended up going to Fullerton College. The very first week were like the tryouts, quote unquote, but it was essentially just a way to scare off those people that wanted to be on the team, just to be on the team.
Yeah.
So we ran 5 miles around the track and then had practice.
Jesus. Yeah.
And that was brutal after like all day classes and stuff.
Yeah.
And after a semester at Fullerton College, was it a semester? It might have been, I think it might have been my first whole freshman year. And then once the season was over, that original basketball coach ended up leaving the school. They brought in some guy, and he was like this tiny little white guy, played for um, Cal State Fullerton. He's supposed to be a great coach, but he ended up bringing in all of his own dudes, all of his own recruits, and he had like this like 7-footer from Australia. He had like
Wow.
another guy from another school that was like 6'8" and athletic. And there was a time where um, he told me where like he pulls me aside after practice and just like, hey, Brenden, I don't plan on you being on this team in the future. I can send you to another school, or I can give what's it called, a recommendation to another school for you, so maybe you can make the team there. I'm like, I'll see about that, and then ended up transferring to Cypress College. and then went to Cyprus. When I started going to Cypress College, I was practicing with the team. They say I'd be a gray shirt. I would sit out for the season, play another year, and then I was like, do I really want to spend another year at the junior college level? Because at that point, all my friends were kind of making fun of me for going to a junior college while they're all at the university. And so then basically we had an individual meeting. We all had individual meetings at one point, a couple weeks into the new year. And the coach is like, yeah, we don't want you on the team. Well, we just think that you're we don't think you love the game. And I was so beyond mad. I remember when I tried when he shook my hand, I just squeezed his hand as hard as I could. And I was just like, I was so irritated. And so I ended up going to my car, just like emotional, teary-eyed, everything. Like I thought I was like, this is it. What am I supposed to do? And then it took me a couple of days to realize that when I was driving to and from school, I was always listening to 100.3 The Sound in LA, and it's unfortunately no longer there. But it was Mark in the morning from Mark and Brian, the legendary LA radio duo.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of radio legends on that station. They had like Uncle Joe Benson, Andy Chanley, Gina Grad, Rita Wild, Mary, and it's all. And I remember hearing specifically Mark talking to some lady on the phone, and he, she was like laughing at his jokes, and he goes, "How big boobs do you have?" or something like that, and it made me laugh so hard. And he like and I basically like I wanted to always be into entertainment,
Yeah.
but I always hated the way that I looked. So I was like, okay, I kind of like the way radio is, and my grandpa had a whole thing with radio. I'm like, maybe I could get into that. And then sure enough, I tell my parents about it, and then eventually I applied to Cal State Fullerton after I was done with the junior college level. Um, applied there, applied for a major in radio, TV, film, and then went there for 2 years. My senior year, I had an internship with Coast 103.5, which is an LA feel good station. And I was with the Ellen K morning show and had a great time there. And then I tried getting another radio job for like another 3 years after graduating college and finally landed here to answer your question with a super long story, but
Hey, that's
that's
okay.
my overall venture into radio is that, I've always been told I have like the voice for it, and they always had the joke, well, you have the face for it too, type of thing. And I've personally, I feel like I've gotten extremely lucky to land somewhere where they're playing the cool rock and metal music. We're not the stereotypical rock station playing radio edits or doing the hokey voices. We're just ourselves on the air. We can make jokes and have a good time here for sure.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's totally cool to have a long answer because this is just a conversation, man. So long answer, short answer, that's all good. And I love hearing the stories. So that's very cool.
Yeah, yeah, and it took me a long time. It took me a lot of realizing what I wanted to do, and I still don't necessarily like have a backup plan in case radio just falls. But
Yeah.
I did work at TMZ for about 2 years as a production
Wow.
assistant,
That's cool.
and that was just kind of like, hey, you want to wake up at 4 in the morning, get Harvey Levin his coffee, and prepare the scripts for the live show. But it was like a starter job into Hollywood and seeing what it's like to be a potential producer. And that's how I met my friend Matt, who I mentioned on the show here, and my other friend Jose, and all those guys. And it's pretty crazy to be in that newsroom and to be behind the scenes. And when I was working at TMZ when the whole Ellen DeGeneres thing came out, and I was like, I could totally see her being the absolute worst because I got to see what happens behind the scenes at TMZ. I
Yeah.
know for a fact that Ellen DeGeneres was like that lady that's like, don't talk to me in the hallway,
Hmm.
having her higher ups do things. And I gotta say, working at TMZ, Harvey Levin was one of the toughest, shortest guys I've ever seen. He was like 5'2",
Oh,
and
wow.
he's. This is a funny thing that if you watch the TMZ show and you see him behind the counter with his drink, I used to be the guy that would have to fill up that cup with water and iced tea or whatever he wanted that day.
Yeah.
But he like does a kneeling thing on an apple box behind the counter, so he's not really standing behind the counter. He's like kneeling on an apple box behind the counter because he's that short.
Oh man. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. I haven't never watched the show, but I'm familiar with who he is. I've seen like, news reports and stuff. And I never would have assumed he was super short.
He's one of the hardest working dudes you'll ever see. I mean, that guy, you think for him being, I don't know, is he 71 now? I think he's 71 or 72 now. And everyone thinks he's way younger, but he's like he's older, but he takes care of himself. I remember like
Yeah,
seeing like meal prep containers and his protein shakes and all that stuff. And he works out all the
crazy.
time. And he'll be in that newsroom, that office, 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day. And he also does like the People's Court on the weekends. He does all of that stuff. And it's not I didn't really get the chance to talk with him individually, but he is very like intense. He's always like in your face. I mean, even though he's like down there, but he's still like
Yeah.
in your face and very I feel like he would be cool to learn the stories from him of what he's experienced running TMZ and being around for that long in Hollywood and LA as a whole.
Yeah, I never would have guessed he was that old because he looks real good for his age.
Yeah, I mean, he must take care of himself or he must
Yeah.
have really good genetics. I don't know which one it is.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you also being 6'9", there's not a lot of people that get in your face though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's basketball. There was quite a few basketball players that I have encountered where I have, it's like I'm considered normal in the basketball world. Like the tallest dude I've ever met was 7'6", and he's from
Wow.
Sudan, and his name's Mamadou, and I believe his last name's like Njai. I forgot how you say it properly, but he played for UC Irvine. He tried going to the pros. I think he's like in the G League or something like that. I forgot where he's at, but he came to my basketball gym, a high school basketball gym, and he ducked like halfway down to get through the door and stood up. And then I shook his hand, and I couldn't see my whole hand. His whole hand was covering my wrist, and it's like
Wow.
I was like white wrist and then just black, and like he was like
That's
covering my whole
crazy.
hand. Yeah, he was super nice though. A lot of the tall guys, they're friendly for
That's
sure.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I also have to relate, I've also been told I have a voice for radio, and I'm like, well, how do I take that where you're not just calling me ugly?
right.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? You have
yeah,
a face for
exactly.
radio, or your voice is so great. Because I used to work in a call center, and when I would call, to the other groups to like transfer customers, they would just like, oh, I wanted you on my team because you have such a nice radio voice. I'm like, what are you trying to say? Like, you just have a nice way of talking. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll take that other than just you think I'm ugly, so that's cool.
And it's funny when you hear yourself, do you kind of like go, okay, maybe I don't like the way that I sound, or like there's my crutch words or things like that. Because that's what happens with me is like, Jade will point out words that I often repeat and but everyone has these crutch words that
Oh
they'll
yeah,
repeat over and over again. And I talked with Pete Guston, who's a legendary voiceover guy. And I was emailing him saying, hey, man, thanks for being on the podcast. I sent him the episode. And he's like, dude, not to be rude, but I don't want to listen to it because I hate hearing myself. And
I get
dude, you're the voice of movie trailers and like and like Fox News and like CBS, like you're the voice guy. Like, what do you mean you hate hearing yourself?
Yeah, I definitely I can relate because the way you hear me sound is not the way that I sound to myself, which I'm sure you probably have the same thing hearing yourself talk all the time. Um, so yeah, when I hear myself play back, it's weird because it doesn't sound the same. But yeah, I have like, for sure I say that a lot or that's cool, yeah, or like nice. Those are kind of like my crutch filler words I've noticed because I'll watch back some of these like when I'm getting ready to interview someone for like a second or third time or whatever. But um but yeah, it's hard listening back when I'm doing the edits because I'm like, yeah, it's weird listening to myself. I'm sure you can relate.
Oh yeah, no, and Jade Davis, who's like the operations manager here, he'll
Hmm?
play clips of me over and over and over again, and he'll like add it to a file and just put it, sometimes make fun of it. I think I said posthumously, but it's posthumously, and he's a word stickler, and
Sure.
he'll get me with different things, but also be friendly about it. Like, dude, next time it's posthumously. Like, I don't want you to sound dumb on the air. It's,
Yeah.
some listeners like, hey, this guy's an idiot type of thing.
Well, that's good that he's there to catch that stuff.
Yeah, 100%. He's
Sure.
one of the coolest dudes, but he's also like very strict at the same time.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I remember him and Victor are ones that I grew up on. One I was listening to the radio all the time and back in high school. I remember hearing them all the time.
Yeah, yeah. It's I've realized as I've progressed here how much stuff those guys have done and people that they've seen in this building.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I This last year I turned 40. I'll be 41 in the fall. And yeah, I remember growing up, going to high school because that's how old I am. I graduated in 2002. Victor and Jade were on the radio all the time.
And they're around the same age. I know Victor's 42. I think he'll be 42 this year. But Jade started KBear. I think Jade's only like a year or two older. I think he's like 43, but
Yeah.
he just looks older because of that giant gray beard on his face.
Yeah.
And what's it called? What was I going to say? Oh yeah, he started KBear back when I was like one. I think it was like 97 when he started KBear.
Woof.
And now, I mean, he feels old hiring a guy who's, 20. At the time when I was first hired here, I was 24. So it was just kind of like it's a weird moment. And there's a girl in the building that I'm actually friends with. Her name's Maddie. She was born in 2006. And I'm just like, how are you born that late?
That's in 97, I was in junior high,
Right, right.
and 2006 was the year before my oldest daughter was born. So yeah, that makes me feel super old. No, I
Yeah.
actually, I actually told Victor, I said, I've been listening to you since back when you actually had hair.
Hmm.
And he thought that was pretty funny. But I mean, I can say too, I'm also in the bald man club,
Heck
bald
yeah.
bearded man club. So, it's
Yeah.
it's a good club. There's a lot of good guys there for sure.
I was thinking that Family Guy clip where like the two bald guys are in the elevator and one of them licks the other one's head and then another bald guy runs in and he goes, "Did you guys just do the thing?" Like I think about that clip all the time. And
Yeah,
like every dude in here besides Jade is also a bald bearded guy too. Like
yeah.
our GM, Victor, there's well, Josh from Classy is. I feel like Justin's almost there. I feel like he has like one or two haircuts left before he has to just get rid of it all. And he'll join the crew.
Yeah, man, I just decided I wasn't gonna be one of those guys that tries to comb over and just like try to, save what I had. Because I used to have a big full head of hair, but I was like, as soon as I start seeing the bald spots, it's gone. Like I'm not gonna be one of those guys.
I was the exact same way. I was very like self-conscious about it, and then
Yeah.
like I would get the occasional comments, and then I saw myself in videos. I'm like, okay, that just does not look good. And my dad lost his the same time, around the same time that he was also 27, 28. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do the horseshoe like him. I'm just gonna. And it was like the day before my 28th birthday that I just was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. And I just grabbed this. I didn't even think about it. I just grabbed the electric razor, did it, and then we had like the big reveal on the air here, and everyone's like, "Dude, that looks so much better than before." Like, and I was like, "How bad did I look before?" Like everyone said,
Yeah.
"Oh, so much better now."
Yeah, I was the same way. I was like, as soon as I start, I remember when I saw Kevin Smith for the first time, where he had the bald spot up here, and he's kind of just trying to save the rest of his hair, and I'm like, if I ever get to that point, I'm done. And we were at one of my old jobs, we were looking through security footage to see something that got misplaced or whatever, and I saw myself come in, and I saw it right there on the crown. It was all bald. I'm like, oh, it's gone. And so the next day, I just went home and buzzed it. I was like, I'm not going to be that guy. And it's no offense to the guys that want to try to keep the little bit of hair they have or whatever. No offense to those guys. I just that kind of thing wasn't going to be for me.
Not to go back to the wrestling thing. I was thinking of Paul Heyman, like that dumb ponytail on the
Yeah,
back
dude.
of his head. Like, to
Yeah.
me, if he
Yeah.
was bald completely, he would look like a human thumb, though. Like he didn't. He
Yeah.
looks he's a different looking guy. And
Yeah.
I was thinking about John Cena too when his bald spot was showing towards the end there.
Yep.
I'm like, is he going to get rid of that or is he going to like shave it off completely and stun everybody? Like, what's going to happen? Like, it's a
He
funny thing.
he said he got hair transplant surgery.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, for me, I feel like that would look kind of dumb now because I've kind of embraced the whole bald thing. Like, I
Yeah.
can't imagine going to Turkey and getting the things in my head. And I've seen people with like the aftermath of it where like their head swells up and they kind of look like Megamind. And I'm like, do I
Yeah.
really want to go through that whole pain? And you have to like protect it too and all this stuff. And yeah, I'm like, I knew at some point I was going to turn out to be like this. And I'm like, I'll just continue with this. It doesn't bother me at all. And it's the just the annoying things like shaving it every other day. But other than that, it's kind of like,
Yeah.
oh, well.
It's been long enough now that I'm kind of the same way where I'm just kind of just own it. And yeah, it is kind of the upkeep is kind of rough and just kind of a pain in the ass. But yeah, there's I've seen a few other wrestlers who've done the hair transplant surgery. It's just like in a circle on top of their head. I'm like, come on, man. Like it just own like there's even a few wrestlers that owned the bald for a while, but then they went back and they got the hair surgery. So it's like it just looks weird. And it
Yeah,
sometimes it's okay, but they just need to own it.
right. I'm glad Stone Cold he did very early on, and then Kurt Angle also
Yeah.
did, and Kurt Angle is like a monster with like, so
Kurt Angle did, Big Show did,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
Triple H finally did, and
He, Triple H still has hair too. That's the funny thing. You can still see it like on his head, but like he just shaved it off, I think, to be like the executive figure type of
Yeah.
guy, But I mean, I thought I was going through health issues, and then I saw what Triple H went through with like his heart, like had some major problems. His like
Yeah.
lungs were filled with fluid, and I'm like, geez, like that's insane.
Yeah. And then Shawn Michaels, when he cut his ponytail off, I was like, it's a sad day. Shawn Michaels'
He
beautiful long hair is gone. But
he looks really he looks so
looks
beat up now.
he looks weird.
Yeah, I feel bad because I don't know what he's been through, but I'm like he looks definitely different. Like one eye's one direction, the other eye's the other direction, and I'm just like, man,
I think
what
it's
happened to our
always
idols?
I think it's always been like that. Just it's more obvious now for some reason.
Huh?
I don't
Interesting.
know. Sorry. Anyway, we got sidetracked. I
It's
apologize.
all good.
So what I want to know now is, I've seen you do a lot of musical interviews. Most recently, your one with Rory Rodriguez, which I'm a huge fan of Dayseeker, another band that I found on TikTok. Um, how did that interview go? How awesome was that? And what are some other musical interviews that you've done that you consider favorites?
It's funny because I mean Roy Rodriguez, I'm a huge fan of him. I was told initially because he grew up in the same area that I did, but I never really knew about Dayseeker till I got out here.
Yeah,
The whole band is from Orange, California, but which is a great city. I love their like block of Orange and everything. Like they have a Dave and Buster's there, and it's a good hangout spot and everything. And um, I actually had a friend who did shows back in the day for Dayseeker. Like, he would help set up the stage. He would help do a whole bunch of stuff. And I was told by him that Rory's a big pain in the butt. I was told by somebody who arranges interviews that Rory's a pain in the butt. And so I was just kind of like, is he really that much of a diva? And then I talked with him on the Zoom call there, and sure enough, like you can tell he's still new to interviews
yeah,
because he would give out these long-winded answers and wouldn't know when to stop. And he would just keep going and going. And I kind of tried to get to know him on a personal level.
yeah,
And luckily he sort of allowed that type of thing where I try to like become friends with them more than anything and try to understand like what they go through and ask them really intricate, unique questions that most other radio DJs won't ask them. And it went fairly well, I think. I mean, I hear myself more than anything in those interviews. Well, I hear the guest, of course, give me their answers and I'll reply to what they said. But listening back to the interview, I'm like, okay, what could I have done to be better? And sometimes it's with artists that I don't really, not necessarily don't care for, but ones that I'm not really a fan of that I end up liking as a person after talking to them. Like Cody from Set It Off, super nice dude. The whole band actually is. Point North, never thought I'd be a fan of them until I met them here in the studio when they stopped by because they went out of their way from Spokane to Salt Lake City to come stop by our studio and hang out with us.
that's
And
cool.
then I got to interview them again at a Salt Lake City hotel right by the pool. And it was like hanging out with my friends from like middle school. And there's been some interviews that have not gone well in my opinion just because they were not necessarily the best either on my part or the guest's part, but I could say like Joey from Bad Flower, their guitarist, he was kind of difficult to interview. Not it wasn't anything on him, it was just like a last minute change. I was supposed to interview Josh, the lead singer, and then that switched over to Joey because Josh was on a plane. Joey was driving with in a van with some other guy from the band, so he's like, sure, I'll answer the phone, and we just talked for like 8 minutes. Aaron Jones was also a really quick interview that I wasn't necessarily prepared for, so I think that one was more so my fault. But the fun ones were like Johnny Hawkins of Nothing More. I mean, looking at the flow of that interview, it's kind of like just two friends talking back and forth, and that's what you kind of want to aim for. I watch
Yeah,
these other radio DJs, and I see them ask these questions, and I talked with Patrick of Ice Nine Kills. It was one of the coolest moments of my career where I got to drive the drummer of Ice Nine Kills in my car from the Mountain America Center to the studio here, and I was
that's
just chatting
awesome.
with them, and I'm like, dude, so like, how's your experience been? And like, I guess Spencer, I don't know if it was Spencer, but I guess Patrick was doing an interview for one of the stations over in Boise, and Spencer doesn't like to do radio interviews, so he had Patrick be doing all the interviews. And Patrick's not in the band anymore, unfortunately. But Patrick's like, yeah, some guy in Boise. asked me in like the hokiest radio show voice, like, "What's the first thing you do in a hotel room when you get there?" And I'm like, "That's a stupid question." So
That
like,
is a stupid question.
yeah, so I try my best to not be like Nardwar or anybody like that. That's completely just their own realm of interviewing. But I also
Yeah.
want to ask them questions that I really, really want to ask them. And with Rory, I sort of wanted to thank him in a way because I listened to Dark Sun all the time when I was going through like a real depressive phase, and I would walk around the green belt like at 10 p.m. at night, and I would just listen to that album on repeat. And like I loved Quicksand and all that stuff, and I really wanted to tell him that overall versus asking him questions. So it's kind of, you kind of don't want to be a fangirl. At the same time, you want
It's
to make
hard.
sure you tell them like, "Hey, I appreciate your work so much, appreciate you doing that." But then
Yeah.
I feel like I'm the same one of like tens of thousands of people that's telling them that, and it's like, okay, well, my opinion doesn't mean anything, but to him, I could really feel as if he was honestly into the music and really into pouring his heart out in a way, kind of like how I would be if I were a musician. So I was asking him all about like the whole like emotional process of dealing with the loss of his dad, how he dealt with like turning that into an album that's of course really good and all that stuff. But yeah, that's those artist interviews, man, that sometimes they can go great, sometimes they can just suck. Like, no, I know Victor talked about his interview with Doc Coyle from Bad Wolves, and he was like, "Man, I hated that whole conversation," but it was more so just Victor second guessing himself. And for me now, I just kind of go, you know what? If that interview was good or bad, I'm just going to put it out there, and people can critique it if they want to. They can hate it, they can love it. I don't. But people, from the feedback that I've seen when I posted my Dayseeker interview on their r/Dayseeker subreddit, everyone was like, "This is awesome, cool, thank you so much," and that's about it. I mean, everyone's going to get real nervous when they admire somebody too. And so
Yeah.
when I saw Chris Jericho when I interviewed him, and I'm seeing him talk to me, I'm like, I used to watch this guy as a kid, and now he's staring right at me, and I feel like he's going to rip a
Man,
promo on me or something.
you interviewed Chris Jericho?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
it was back when I was in the mid days on KBear, and I had that feature called Peach's Power Ballad, and it was just dumb because Phyllis at the time had the 2 p.m. 2 o'clock tea time. Victor had the middle morning wake up call. So I'm like, we already have two heavy song features. Let's just go the opposite route and do Peach's Power Ballad and do something dumb like that. And so
Yeah.
every day at like 11, I would just play a power ballad. And I ended up, right as the new Fozzy album came out at the time, he had a ballad on there called Army of One. And I played that. And I guess the music report got sent to, or the Victor did the music report and sent it out. And the guy was all, one of the guys was like, "Hey man, like you guys played Fozzy's ballad on the album. Like we so appreciate that. Would you potentially want to do an interview with Chris Jericho?" And sure enough, Victor's like, "Yeah, Peaches would be dying to do that." And so talked with him for like 10 minutes, and he is actually one of my favorite show intros because I had him do like, "Hey, you're listening to Peaches," and he almost didn't do it because he was out of time, and he's like, I got to move on to the next interview, dude." And I'm like, okay, no worries, sounds good." And the guy in the room was like, "No, dude, you have like a minute or two, you can do so." And the guy, Chris Jericho, just goes, "Hey, you're listening to Peaches on KBear, and he's as sweet as he sounds," and like this whole like, he just ripped it out like the first take. No, he said like, "Hey, I'm Chris Jericho, Fozzy. You're listening to Peaches. That's right, Peaches. He's as sweet as he sounds right here on K-Bear 101." And like that became my all-time
That's
favorite
awesome.
thing. I have that on a USB drive because I'm like, I got to save all the artist drops that I get just for down the line to be like, this guy said my name at one point.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard, when like you said with interviews, sometimes they go really well and they kind of just have that back and forth like a best friend, and sometimes they don't go as well. I've had some of those myself where you try to get the person to kind of have a conversation with you, but they just give you really like straightforward short answers, and it's hard to you can kind of just tell how the interview is going to go when they answer like that, and you kind of try to get them to talk a little bit more, and you can just tell they're not going to, so you just kind of go along with what you're going to do. But it always is a lot more. I mean, all the interviews are fun, but it's a lot more fun when like an interview like this one where we kind of just have a back and forth. We're having a conversation like two friends. It's really cool, and I'm also with you. I used to be part of a network that, I had a chance to interview some really big names. Like I interviewed Kevin Smith once, which was fantastic. Like he's one of my heroes, and I tried really hard not to fangirl all over the place, but I'm like, I just need to take a couple minutes just to tell you how awesome I think you are. I interviewed Brendan Small twice, which was incredible that I was even able to interview him once. And I have a friend that passed away that, I asked before he passed, I had asked him if you, I knew that an interview with him was coming up. So I said, if you could ever ask him anything, what would you ask him? And so he wrote me out all these questions. So I made sure the first time I interviewed him, I'm like, this might be the only time I talk to him. So I'm going to ask him all these questions. And I was able to get him all answered, which was cool. But then I had the second interview with him. So I'm like, I got to think of something completely new because, like you said, you don't want to ask them the same thing they've been asked a million times before. You kind of want to try to ask them something a little bit different to make it not just another interview. You want to kind of try to make it so you're a little bit memorable. So I was able to do that, and he even like, oh yeah, I think I remember you. I was like, yes, Brendan Small remembers me. And it was the second time I interviewed him was just a couple of months before when they came here last year for the Mutilation on a Spring Night tour, and it was cool. And I got to tell him, hey, you're coming to my town soon. We don't usually get a lot of big name people here, and the fact that you're even coming at all is incredible. So I'm very excited you're coming. And it was really, really cool. And yeah, like you said, it's hard to not fangirl out, but you have to take that couple of minutes just to like kind of get it out of your system, and then you can, be the professional.
And I overthink it too. I will like watch all these different interviews. I will try my best to find interviews with those artists and be like, okay, they already asked this, they already
Yeah,
asked that. And sometimes you have to ask those questions just to kind of promote what they're wanting to promote in the first place.
yeah,
But at the same time, like with Rory, I knew I had like, hey, I grew up in the same neck of the woods that you did kind of angle with him. And I don't really think he cared, but at the same time, it was just cool to try to have that be like a natural icebreaker to be like, hey,
yeah,
man, like, did you go to the Dave and Buster's? Did you go to that van shop that was in the block of Orange that had the skate park in it before it was shut down, type of thing? And I know other radio stations will just ask him about the music, but I want to get to know the person behind the whole thing
yeah,
and know their whole songwriting process and really got them into it. And obviously, I mean, that's of course the stereotypical question, like, what got you into music? Do you like it? Type of thing. And it's like,
yeah,
okay, how can I listen to? I'm just such a over analysis freak when it comes to interviews and such because everyone says like Howard Stern's the best interviewer, and I mean I like his some of his stuff, but the one guy who I really like who asks questions clear and concise is Sean Evans from Hot Ones. I really like how his team can like dig deep into stuff and really get to ask these intricate questions where they know they'll get some sort of great answer about it. And like Howard, I've heard I've was told I think Howard Stern used to intentionally say things wrong in order for the person to be like, oh no, it's actually this, and the reason why it's this, and blah blah blah. Like, he would kind of like almost mess with them psychologically almost, but like he would still. I mean, like if you talk to a giant artist or something like that, you get told, don't mention this, don't do that. And that would be like the last thing you would want to tell Howard Stern because he'll like look them in the eye and ask them those questions right away and go against everything that the PR person said. Because when I was at Coast 103.5 in Los Angeles, Sam Smith came in, and before even he came in, there was two ladies who were like his PR ladies that were like, "Do not mention his weight loss. Do not mention this. How good he looks. How bad he looks. Do not mention anything about his looks. Only talk about this. Only talk about that." And Ellen gave out like this vanilla interview, and then they kind of just did this um, post where they were giving away $1,000 cash on the show or something like that. And Ellen, Ryan, and Sam were throwing money in the air, and it was like a funny little like boomerang that they had all arranged. Sam leaves to go to the other stations. The PR woman go like, "Do not post that. That's not part of Sam Smith's image. Do not delete that right away." And they walked out of the room. And it's like, it's weird how like celebrities don't really say much, but their PR people do. Or like if you go to
yeah,
that high of level, like Kelly Clarkson, super nice. Saw me and she goes, "Oh my God, you're freaking tall," and hugs me. And it was like some like random lady on the street. Like it wasn't like she's a top tier celebrity. It was just like
yeah.
a nice lady. But Sam was also nice too. But those PR people, man, when you deal with them, it's it's rough.
Yeah, I've dealt with a couple of them. I know when I talked to comic book artist Daniel Warren Johnson, there was someone that was there that was kind of just listening in to make sure everything was okay. I also dealt with one when I got to talk to Chris Hardwick for like 10 minutes. So that was, yeah, it's definitely intense when you get that kind of thing, when you got someone else there, because it's hard to have a conversation with a person when you've got like a third or even fourth or fifth person just kind of over your shoulder kind of watching you. It's kind of you're very careful of what you want to try to say, and it's tough. And like you said, I had a couple of interviews. Like I said, I talked to Chris Hardwick and I talked to Kevin Eastman for like 10 minutes once. And I'm like you with my interviews. I like to kind of get into the why behind somebody, why they're doing something, just to kind of get to know them as a person. But when you've only got like 10 minutes, it's really hard to kind of get into that. And so you want to kind of focus on what is something I could ask that has never been asked before. Like, I mean, like Kevin Eastman, how do you ask someone a Ninja Turtle question or how do you ask him a question about the Ninja Turtles that hasn't already been asked like a million times, you know? It's super hard thing to do, and it kind of can be a little bit stressful. That's why I'm not a super big fan of the short interviews, but I like doing them just because, you might not ever get a chance to talk to that person again.
Right, right. And yeah, I mean, it's like you want to find out these questions. Sometimes now we have AI to help us out. Like maybe that I kind of use
Yeah,
that to kind of boost some ideas or inspire some ideas, and then
yeah.
yeah, things like that. But did you the Kevin Smith interview, is that available online on demand at all? Because I would love to hear that.
It is only the audio though, because we forgot to ask permission to post the video. Um, but I've got the video on my computer that I kind of just watch occasionally. But it
Nice.
was fun because he had postponed on us like four different times, and we found out it was during the writer's strike, and we found out it was because he was in the middle of filming. I can't think of the name of it now, but it's that one that he just released where the kids are in the movie theater.
Trying to think of what that one is. I've never seen his hit movie Dogma at all,
You've
but I
never
know
seen Dogma? It's
he's
very
doing
good.
like the Dogma Resurrection tour,
Yeah.
and he was just I follow this radio show in LA called The Woody Show, and Kevin Smith's a
Mhm.
huge friend of that show, and he'll go on from time to time, and he lives like 4 minutes away from their studio, so he'll just visit, and he had Woody do the intro. I don't know for what movie it was, but he had Woody pretend to be a DJ on Z100 as for one of his movies, and he seems like a genuine cool dude. And I know like the way I found out about him was when he had that whole heart attack, and then he lost
Yeah.
all the weight, and he's now continuing his career, which is great. And
Yeah.
I do need to see Dogma for sure.
It's so good. And it's the 4:30 movie. I just looked it up really quick. So
Oh, 4:30. Okay.
he was filming the 4:30 movie, and he felt bad. We were only supposed to get like 20 minutes with him, but I'm sitting there waiting, and all of a sudden he pops into the Zoom call, and he had done the whole interview on his phone because he was at his mom's house. And I'm like, they had said, and we were talking about a couple of his comics that came out recently, like Tales from the Quick Stop or something like that. And I'm like, how much time, I want to be respectful of your time. And he's like, we were only supposed to have like 20 minutes, but I've put you off so many times. Just, take he's like, is an hour okay? And I'm like, is an hour okay? I don't know if I can fit everything I want to ask you in an hour. Because my introduction to Kevin Smith was I had watched Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and not knowing that there was like a whole plethora of movies that took place before that. So my friend sat me down, and overnight we watched, from his first movie, Clerks, all the way up through there at the time, and they all kind of connect together. So it's kind of cool to see that. Dogma is a weird one because it kind of connects, but at the same time, it kind of doesn't. It kind of is its own standalone. But all of the other movies kind of connect into each other. And if you listen, they call back to other things that happened in other movies. And it's kind of cool how they do that thing. But Kevin
Cool.
Smith was a big influence on me. Um, I got in his movies pretty hard. It's something that, I introduced to my dad because he wasn't familiar with Kevin Smith, and that's something that got us a lot closer together before he passed, which was really cool. So I just needed to, I told him like, hey, you're a completely big inspiration for me, and it was super cool to talk to him. And the sound isn't so great on it. He sounds great. I don't sound super great, but yeah, it's available online to listen, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast apps, on YouTube, whatever.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. I always love listening to him speak and see what he has to say to you, and hear Chris fangirling to Kevin Smith,
Yeah.
as we all do with our favorite people.
For sure. Yeah, I told him that, we talked about the heart attack thing. We talked about when he checked himself into the mental health place. I wanted to make sure he's doing okay with that. And we just kind of just talked about how things go. And um, he told me he was going to take me to to his lawyer because I said, "Okay, kids," because that's how he always starts a lot of his stuff, and I've kind of incorporated that into my show. He's like, "All right, lawyers, lawyer letters in the mail," and I'm like, "Oh man, please don't." It was a whole big thing. It was kind of funny.
Oh, cool. That's
But
awesome.
but yeah, it was really cool. So speaking of being in the radio, um, how does it feel to be part of such a big community, being able to give back, helping our town grow, and bringing cool stuff here? What is how is that like? Explain, describe your experience with that.
It's been really cool to see the amount of people who actually have accepted me as a person they listen to. And when I was listening to going back to the whole Mark in the Morning thing on 100.3 The Sound, I was listening to him for laughter and enjoyment and to overall just like kind of make my commute easier. And I was heartbroken in 2017 because I was broken up with, and the Woody Show, another radio show that I mentioned before, they were always like I somehow found out about their show when I was dating my first ever girlfriend and stuff. And then we broke up and it was just a heart-wrenching experience, the whole thing. And so I'm driving to the gym, like because every heartbroken dude will just go to the gym at 4 a.m. And like it's like that's when you get your most motivation. And so I would
Yeah.
like listen to their show via the podcast version that they had available on demand. And so every single morning I would hear like no, I would hear him go, "Good morning," whatever it was, and I would say good morning back, like I was part of the crew, the group of friends. And so I put that into my own little afternoon with people. Like even though some people don't like what I have to say, or some people love what I have to say, they're at least and hopefully entertained, and like they consider me to be somebody in their car or somebody at their work that like they love listening to ramble. Even like if it's me and Victor talking in the noon hour, we sort of add that happiness to their day, or we sort of add that like because I don't ever want to talk politics on my show. I know that's a huge downer for everybody who goes onto
Yeah.
Facebook, watches the news.
Yep.
So I know like to avoid that completely, and I'd much rather talk about like some guy trying to buy or some guy stealing another dude's car than selling it back to him and tease stories like that. And
Yep.
um, but it is cool to really help try to bring excitement to rock shows, help try to give people concert tickets. That's my all-time favorite thing is to give somebody like a pair of concert tickets who's never been to a concert and they go experience something like that for the very first time. And overall, it's just fun to uh, even like have people just call in and chat because off the air when I'm not doing a break, there's people that call this phone right here next to me all the time. And one of our listeners will just talk to me on his drive and be like, "It's been a hefty, terrible Monday," but he'll like describe to me about like why his Monday sucks, and then he'll be like, "Dude, like thank you so much for listening, even though you're working." I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I'm here for." Like, but I'm not going to air the whole call or any part of that call because it's just me talking to
Yeah.
people. But there'll be some times that like you'll get like some hefty calls, and then sometimes you get calls like, "Hey, thank you so much." Like, I'm sure Victor gets it a whole lot more than me, but like Victor, of course, gets the people like, "Hey, I grew up listening to you, appreciate you of all that you do," and like I can't imagine if I ever get to that point in my career, what's gonna like if I'm probably gonna like tear up on the on site there.
Yeah, man,
But
for
overall,
sure.
it's to bring happiness to somebody who potentially could be alone the way that I was driving that like 2003 Honda Element to the to and from the gym at like 4 in the morning and like trying to like find that laughter again. Because as stupid as it sounds, I also listened to Shaq's podcast, and unfortunately that ended. It was called like the Big Podcast with Shaq, and he had this great thing where he's like, "I hate being sad. If I feel sad, I'll just try to make myself laugh." And I'm like, for some reason that has stuck with me, and I'm like, okay, maybe I should implement that into the radio show to not only help the listener but also help me at the same time. And sometimes some shows just suck and it's whatever, but other
Yeah.
times that was an overall fun afternoon. Can't wait for people to hear that on demand or listen to it live. And yeah, it's a hopefully I can continue to bring more to the area besides just the fun show, and we're trying to do more and more stuff for the community as a whole as a company. So I know like coming up on Memorial Day we're going to be cleaning up graves and stuff for the fallen soldiers and stuff, all that. And I pitched the idea of doing like a canned food drive at the Idaho Falls Farmers Market instead of just sitting there with a booth. We would like to try to get cans of food to maybe parents and kids who don't have access to it. So I love doing that type of thing too, besides
Yeah,
trying to bring the laughter on the air.
for sure. Yeah, and I just went to the farmers market for the first time this year, which I guess was the first time for the season anyway. And yeah, there's a ton of people there, so that'd be a really cool way to kind of get people to come by, hang out, and just drop some stuff off. And like I've kind of felt that way too, where someone will tell me like, "Hey, Your podcast is like my favorite podcast. I like listening to you. And I don't get that a lot, but just the fact that I get it at all is kind of awesome. So, I'm kind of like you. It really kind of warms my heart. And like, I don't have a lot of listeners on my show, but the people that take the time out to do that kind of make you want to keep going. And that's what's really cool. Just the people who will take the time to thank you for what you're doing, to, acknowledge that, they appreciate what you're doing. It does a lot for your mental health.
Yeah, it is daunting to like go to a show like at the Mountain America Center or the Portland Health Trust Amphitheater and have these people run up to us and be like, "Peaches, Victor, can I take a picture with you guys?" And like it makes you feel like you're almost like Ryan Seacrest, but at the
Yeah.
same time, like like I know there's sometimes where like nobody really wants a picture with me. They'll take one with Victor instead, and they'll have me hold the camera. And so that's a very humbling moment at the same time. Like,
Sure.
oh yeah, he's the guy. He's been doing it for 18 years. Meanwhile, I've been doing it for now 4, which is crazy. It's been that long now. You know,
Yeah.
I just rewatched. I was talking about it on the air today. I watched a little clip from my interview with Chris Daughtry from back when I first started, and I look like a baby compared to now. I look more
Crazy.
like Daughtry now than myself.
Oh man, Chris Daughtry. I'm a big fan of Chris Daughtry. That's cool.
Yeah, he's a super nice guy. Another one of those dudes that like the music itself I find to be okay, but hearing him, talking with him, and even in that interview, we talked about it in 2021 how great Sleep Token was, and
Yeah,
then sure enough, they blow up 3 or 4 years later. And I
it's
might need to
crazy.
upload that clip on social media, be like, we talked about this before they were huge, huge type of thing.
Cool. Yeah, I know. My wife and I, we used to watch American Idol, but we'd only watch the tryout parts because that's the only part that was worth, watching. But then
Heck
we
yeah.
we got to the season where Chris Daughtry was on, and we're like, okay, we need to finish watching this season now because we want to see how far this dude goes because he's an incredible singer.
Yeah, it's funny. There was a that me and Victor were backstage at the Mountain America Center, and we're about to go on stage, do the stage introduction and all that.
Yeah.
And the tour manager, I think it was the tour manager, went up to me and Victor's like, "Hey, man, just guys, please do not mention American Idol when you're up there. That was 17 years ago." That was just like a funny, funny moment. And I think their tour manager was a guy named Sheep, and he had like this. It's a nickname, obviously, but he like
Yeah.
this cool accent. And he's like, "All right, guys, here's Peaches." And this whole thing. And I come around the corner because it was like a meet and greet. And I was like the last guy in the meet and greet line to get a guitar signed by the band. I think that's what it was. But I ended up meeting those guys. And they're like, when you said Peaches, I didn't expect the largest man on planet Earth or something like that. Because I turned the corner and they all like collectively look up like the aliens from Toy Story. They're like, wow.
That's funny.
Yeah, but overall, I mean, everyone is extremely nice. I think in this genre, you kind of have to be to make it big. Almost, it's
Yeah.
like the fake customer service voice where you're like, okay, I can't. The only dude I've ever had like and maybe an issue with, but he's just not into it, not into the interviews. Is Danny Warsnop of Asking Alexandria?
Okay.
He during the entire interview when I was talking to Cam and Sam of the band next to like he was in the chair on his laptop in the room and I'm behind him with Cam and Sam and I'm just interviewing them talking back and forth and Danny starts coughing like almost like intentionally loud just the whole time and then he starts
Wow.
answering phone calls and goes hello and like he kept going in and out of the room and
Wow.
it's like you could just be a part of the interview here. Like you
Yeah.
could, and I kind of wanted to say, like, do you mind? It's like his dressing
Yeah.
room. I had a bad feeling that that would have sparked some fight, and then somehow I would have gotten like a talking to, like I got into a fight with the lead singer of Asking Alexandria or something like that,
Oh man. I
which would be great.
see the headlines now.
Yeah, some guy named
You,
Peaches fought Danny.
on TMZ. Kind
Yeah,
of a full
yeah,
circle moment.
a full circle. Yeah.
Right on, man. All right. So, before I let you go, I want to kind of give you a minute, and I give everyone a minute to do this about sharing some advice about, other fellow creatives or other people that want to kind of pursue, whatever they want to do. They just, for whatever reason, haven't yet. So, what's some advice you want to give to the listeners out there?
If the fire's there and you really, really want to do it, and it's not just like a fad type thing that you want to potentially get into, then give up because that's what I unfortunately deal with. Is that like sometimes I'm like, you know what, I really want to get into playing guitar, but like 2 months into, I'm like, do I really want to keep doing this? I just don't stick with things.
Yeah.
Stick with it. Definitely. if it's a way that you want to express yourself, definitely do it because that will help big time, but not mentally and just it's a fun thing to do and just keep sticking with it. That's the thing I've been telling myself. I see my podcast downloads for my afternoon show, and I'm like, okay, it's only that amount. Josh and Chantel on Classy, they have this amount of downloads. Victor has this amount of downloads, and I'm like down here. But honestly, just stick with it. Keep doing what you're doing, and it may seem tedious, but at some point, rather sooner rather than later, you'll have maybe like that one. Like once you have that one, you're kind of set. Like that's what I've been told too. Is once you have that one viral moment or one good moment online,
Yeah.
that's when the audience. And I always think of that baseball movie. I forget the title. Field of Dreams. Is that what
Hmm.
it is? James
Yeah.
Earl Jones, and he goes, "If you build it, they will come." Like for some
Yeah.
reason, that's been stuck in my head of like, like the whole that phrase and bloom where you're planted. Like, definitely like what you can do. Try to do your best, and that's essentially it. Just stick to it. Don't give up, and hopefully that one of these times it just goes into what you want it to be, and sure enough, it most likely will.
Very cool. Yeah, you gotta try hard not to check out those download numbers because those download numbers can be killer sometimes. They can really be super discouraging. And, as long as you do it for the fun of it, then, you'll keep doing it forever. But once it starts becoming a job and starts becoming hard, it can get really discouraging. So yeah, I think you're right though. Once you get that one moment, you never really know what the moment is, but once you get that moment, it kind of like takes off from there. But yeah, it's tough. I know one of my most listened to podcasts is one where I talk to a guy that um kind of works with me. He does medieval armored combat. So he's here locally, but he is in a league where they put on like full suits of armor and fight each other. And that's one of my most listened to episodes more than the lead singer of I interviewed the lead singer of Coheed and Cambria, and that episode is not as popular as the one with the guy from here, which is kind of weird. But he's like, I don't believe it. I'm like, dude, the stats don't lie, man. Like you just
Yeah,
it's kind of wild which ones will hit and which ones won't. But it's cool to see.
yeah. I feel like the artist interviews at some point, like you're like, okay, this is the next big one, and then you put it out there, and everyone's like, eh. But then you have that one weird episode, like what you just mentioned, and you're like, why is this the one that's doing well? Like I just recently
Yeah.
started a podcast where I interview radio people because I want to use it more so as a way to get to know the others in the industry, pick their brains and how they approach the show. And I'm looking at the downloads for it for my first 3 episodes, and I'm like, that's it. Like I thought they would share the
Yep.
podcast, they would talk highly about it, but
Yep.
it's just I guess at some point, hopefully, just by also when you going back to the whole advice thing, make sure to share your stuff constantly. I'm always like hating those people that want to annoyingly fill up your feed with stuff, but I've now turned into that guy that does it where I'm like, okay, here's a clip of me with Rory, here's something else, here's that, because if you're constantly on somebody's feed, you're in their head, you're reminding them. It's all about the frequency. Like it's a huge thing with radio. Like frequency is a big thing where if you repeat something over and over and over again, once the person hears it 3 times, it'll stick in their head. So
Yeah.
that means like once they finally do check out the podcast or check out the show or check out anything, hopefully they like it and hopefully they stick around. But at least they checked it out that one time.
Yeah. For sure. And yeah, like you said, it's hard because you go through the time to get ready for the interview. The people ask to come on the show and talk to you to do an interview, and then they don't share the interview. And I still to this day, I've almost done 100 episodes of this show, and I still to this day don't understand, you know, people go out of their way to want to go on your show, but they don't want to talk about like, why would you not want to tell people you're on the show and go listen to them? Like, I don't understand. And you can't go and make them do it. You just kind of hope they do. And if they do, that's cool. If they don't, that's cool too. It's just, a choice they make, and it's hard.
I just know when Victor talked about it, like was we shared with his first appearance on the Fueled by Weird podcast on the air, and then I immediately listened to it. And I know when he shared it to a bunch of other people. I think that most likely checked it out as well. And I'll be doing the same thing, of course, when this episode comes out to share it everywhere as much
Appreciate
as I
it, man.
can, and hopefully spread the word about this podcast.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, talking to Victor was an awesome time. It's someone that I've always kind of wanted to talk to, but I was afraid to reach out because, like when we're kids, we have no problem going up to people just like, hey, you want to be my best friend? Let's go hang out and do this. But when we get to be adults, it's something that we overcomplicate. Like, you see someone that has a lot of the same interests and hobbies as you, and you want to go talk to them, see if you want to be friends, but for some reason there's some weird adult thing that's blocking you from doing it. And Victor is one of those people for me. You know, you were one of those people for me too, because I'm like, ah, he'd be such a cool guy to hang out with, and I'm just, why don't I just like talk to him? But I didn't. So it was cool when you reached out to me because I'm like, it's just that easy. I don't know why it has to be more difficult than that.
Oh yeah, no, with Victor, Victor, I consider like to be my Idaho dad, kind of, and so that's like I
Yeah,
jokingly call him that. But
sure.
like, I will talk to him about a whole bunch of stuff because he's so wise for being young as he is too. Where like, I will like, I it's so funny. I talked with him like, well, as a girl, like, kind of broke up with me here, and I was on the phone with him like crying for like an hour, and he's like, and it was so funny because he was very sincere on the phone, and
Yeah.
then the next morning on the air because it was a Sunday night Monday morning, he's like, I would have Twitch streamed last night, but some guy decided to call me about his girl issues, Peaches, and and then that's how we'll just like treat each other's on the air. He'll like make fun of me, but like behind the scenes, we'll all just kind of like, I helped him move stuff many times because I feel bad that he's like the dude who's alone now. I mean, his kids are grown up, and he's kind of like you can tell he's kind of like the empty nester, and he has the
Yeah.
empty nest feeling, and he has those cats to entertain him, but at the same time, he's definitely liking the company, and he'll sometimes. Me and him are very similar in this some way, shape, or form. Like we want to do things, but sometimes we lack the motivation, and then once we finally do it, we're all of a sudden like way into it, and
Yep.
yeah, and so he's a great friend for sure. Like he's one of the nicest dudes. If you ever reach out to him for anything, I'm sure he'll for sure get back. And yeah, he's always teaching me stuff about radio, and sometimes he'll humble me too about the entire experience of like what he's been through. And because sometimes I'll yell about things here in the building, and then he'll be like, "Dude, I had to do this back in the day, and do this and do this," and then you sit there and go like, if he had to do that and I barely have to do this, it means nothing for what I have to do. I need to shut my mouth and just go do my tasks.
Back in my day.
Right. Yeah, he's definitely that guy. Like, I walk to and from school and
Yeah, he's a cool guy, and that was one of my not one of my long it's one of my longer episodes with him, but it was cool. I could have just listened to him talk forever. So I'm right there with you, man. He just you could just listen to his stories all day.
Yeah, yeah, I'm hoping to get someone big for my Talking Between the Songs podcast. I'm trying my best to line up these certain interviews about reaching out to people, and I've been digging, and I'm trying to get the voice of Arthur Morgan to be on Victor's show and like try to surprise him with it, him and also Laszlo, who worked at Rockstar Games for that amount of time, and I want to surprise Victor at least once, and be like, dude, like you might want to answer the phone, and like it's like one of those two, and just freak him out.
That'd be funny. Very
Yeah, do something like that just to throw him off guard. I feel like he'd be mad at me afterwards because it'd be like
cool.
he wasn't prepared at all. He's just like, "Oh my God, there's Roger on the phone for the voice of Arthur Morgan, the game he's played thousands of hours of."
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. So before I let you go, I want to give you a chance to plug yourself. You know, we've kind of talked about your podcast a little bit. I definitely want to let you give a chance to talk about that. You know, let's talk about, you know, to Peach Their Own from the Facebook page and whatever else you want to talk about where people can find you on the internet.
Yeah, there's my afternoon show on KBear 101. People can listen if they're listening from out of state. They can download the KBear 101 app. Make sure to not download the Salt Lake City KBear one, which is misspelt. It's like KBER. Don't go for that one. Go for KBear at the red and black logo. My afternoon shows from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. They can listen live every weekday. They can also hear me weekends on KBear from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m., but it's more so just a pre-recorded like, hey, we're doing this on the show. Check that out. Peach's Pit Party can also be found on demand. No commercials, no music, just me talking, just my breaks from on the air. And there's that. There's the Noon Hour of Madness and Mayhem available on demand. There's the Artist Interrogations podcast, where it's just our artist interviews. There's so much stuff. The Talking Between the Songs, which is where I've only about 3 episodes as of right now. I'm working on the fourth. When we're recording this, my next interview is the next day. I'll be talking to Cutter, who's a rock radio DJ. He does the Cutting Edge Countdown with Cutter on KBear. He's out of Appleton, Wisconsin. He'll be on the show. I'm also just at Brenden Peach, literally everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, I think as well. But overall, to Peach their own, as you mentioned, that's just my 4 p.m. segment. People get to call in live on the air and give me their answer to my dumb question of the day. I think today, since it was National Concert Day, what was like your best concert you've ever been to? That was a fun one. But it's a new question every single day. And yeah, check if you like rock and metal, definitely check out KBear as a whole, just because it's a very unique rock station, and we want to be like the rock station that proves that rock radio isn't the way that you think it is and plays like what they consider now octane core, but or the stereotypical radio edit. Like we know we play the full thing. I mean, as you've probably heard, Chris, too, yourself, like, Rick K-Bear is one of a kind, and people get spoiled around here with K-Bear, and then they go somewhere else, and then they come back and they go, wow, you were right. Like the rock station over in Maryland did suck. I'm glad I'm back here. And it's like, yeah, there's no other rock station like it. And yeah, it's just check us out there, and Peach's Pit Party, everywhere podcasts can be found. And oh yeah, YouTube as well at KBear 101 RMG. And yeah, that's a lot of plugs, but there's a lot of stuff
Right.
that we do right here.
That's all right. Well, now it's my turn. So I would first like to thank Polygon Horizon. Their song Pizza Force is the song we use for the show. Go check it out. It's a fantastic song. You listened to Victor's interview, so you heard how awesome the song is. It's a super rad song. Um, Check them out on Bandcamp. They're a great band. You can find Fueled by Weird on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Check me out or shoot me an email at fueledbyweird@gmail.com if you want to get on the show. Just talk to me about whatever. You can find the show on YouTube, Spotify, and anywhere you get your podcasts. And Fueled by Weird, the Nerdy Man Room show with Hassel and Monster, Hassel's Review, and Big Rob's House of Entertainment and No Chinese Food are all part of the Stay Weird Network. It's a brand new podcast network dedicated to bringing some awesome back to the internet. Check us out at Stay Weird Network on YouTube and Instagram. You can shoot us an email at stayweirdnetwork@gmail.com. And I want to thank the Zone Collectibles in Tifton, Georgia. They're the one-stop shop for comics, collectibles, and so much more. And I want to thank them just for sponsoring the show. If you like the show, please leave a review and tell your friends because word of mouth is my friend. And to rip off Kevin Smith again, remember, kids, life's too short to be normal, so stay weird. Brenden, thanks for coming on the show today, man.
And thank you so much for having me. This was like the very first time I was ever a podcast guest, and I didn't have to do any prepping at all, which was, it's one of those times when I just get to sit down and talk with somebody. So it's awesome. Thank you, Chris. Big time.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.